We cannot, okay. They're busted?
They are.
Oh,
They
darn.
are, yes. Well, you have, Tom, you want to talk to Steve?
As soon as, let's get the meeting going. Yeah, Tanya's up first to talk about the
Tell me when you
challenge.
see a thumbs up.
You still working back there, guys?
Okay, thanks.
Apparently not.
Tom, you're gonna give us the order of today's. Thank you.
Okay, we're live.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, September 15th at 11 o'clock. Welcome to a staff meeting or workshop, as anybody prefers. So with that, we got a few items we're going to cover today. We are sitting differently, but that'll be explained here shortly as well. So with that, again, good morning, everybody. Welcome those of you who are watching on our Facebook Live and YouTube. And anything else? No, Facebook Live, YouTube. Okay. So I'll hand the meeting over to Tom Stoltz, our county manager.
Thanks, Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. We have 4 agenda items today, but before we get started, Tanya will get up and kind of just talk about the state of technology in this room and why we're set this way, and probably will be set this way for tomorrow. So Tanya, you want to talk about that real quick?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. So yesterday we came in the room to test the equipment for the room, and being that it's 2020, we discovered that our media switch went kaput yesterday. So I apologize for the room being the way that it is today, but we're having to do a workaround, and this is the workaround that you'll see. So we're having to do this for today's meeting and tomorrow's meeting. And so this is what we're having to do for presentations tomorrow. The mics are working, but what you are seeing is that our monitors, our TVs, will not be working for today and tomorrow. We did have CTI, our vendor, come in this morning, and the good news is that we just found out about an hour ago is they are able to find, this equipment is actually 16 years old. They are able to find a part. They're able to get it within 2 days. So once we get that equipment in, they'll come in, be able to install that. So we're very hopeful that by next week, everything will be back to normal. You'll be able to be sitting at the bench for staff meeting and commission meeting next week. But unfortunately for today and tomorrow, this will be the arrangement. For a Zoom meeting tomorrow, where we'll have the public comments, you will be able to see the folks who are doing the public comments on the screen tomorrow, and you will also be able to interact from your seat and the microphones at your seat tomorrow. So that's how that will work. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Tanya, also, so tomorrow for the public comment, we can be here and we can see this.
Yes.
And we also have Zoom capability if you need to be at your desk for any reason for whatever you're doing, if you need to. You can back and forth or whatever, so.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then I might just add, tomorrow we'll still be able to do KPTS, we'll still be able to do Facebook Live, and we'll still be able to do YouTube as well, so no changes there.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis.
Will you have power at these tables tomorrow for computers?
Let me make sure, but I think that shouldn't be an issue. We'll make sure we can get that for you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
Okay.
I don't see any other questions.
So, Chairman, the items for discussion today, thanks, Tanya, will be, we're going to have an update on elections from Anna Meyerhoff. Anna, about a month ago, went over just to give some administrative support to the group in Tabitha's absence. So she'll be here with some election staff today to talk about an update. Tim will briefly give us an update on testing, where we're at today. Then we have a discussion about how to handle public comment into the future that we'd like to engage the commission in. And then I think we want to then talk about, Commissioner Howell brought up yesterday an interesting point on long-term care facilities. I think we want to have a discussion about and discuss some potential commission actions based on that topic. So 4 topics today, and we'll start with Anna if there's no questions.
Okay.
So.
Hello, Anna. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Anna Meyerhoff, Central Services Manager, here today on behalf of Election Commissioner Tabitha Lehman. Commissioner Lehman extends her regrets for not being able to be here today, but I know we all wish her well. With me today is Chief Deputy Election Commissioner Sandy Gritz and Deputy Election Commissioner Melissa Schneiders. We're going to provide a review of what we saw in the 2020 primary, and then we'll go into the work being done for the general election. Considering how unique 2020 is, the only real indicator of what we may expect for the general election is what we saw in the primary. So for the primary, the election office established 83 polling locations and 17 early voting sites. That 17 does include the election office. There were a little over 304,000 registered voters with just over 90,000 ballots cast. 43,992 of that was by mail. 4,955 was in person at the early voting centers. 38,726 were voters at polling locations on primary election day, and then 2,346 of that was provisional ballots. That was a turnout of 29.6%, with 54.3% being early voting and in mail or by mail. So comparing this to primaries from the last two presidential elections, we did not see a voter behavior change when it came to voting in person. What the election office did see was a significant increase in the number of voters that were choosing to vote by mail. This option has been highly publicized. Nationwide, voters are very aware of it, and in the state of Kansas, any registered voter may choose an advanced mail ballot. So with 90,000 ballots cast, the primary required a lot of work for the election office that was not anticipated when this year began. So the election office has 9 full-time employees and 2 permanent part-time employees that were there for the primary. And they accrued over 2,500 hours of overtime to get the primary election accomplished. I think that shows the real dedication of that staff to do what needs to be done so that our voters have the ability to do that in Sedgwick County. I think that's incredible. They also had 8.5 temporary employees to help them during that time. There were 530 poll workers. This year, one new thing that the election office did is we did allow workers to work in shifts. They did have the option to do the full day, but there was also an AM and PM shift, but supervising judges were required to work the full day. So now we'll look at the work that the election office is doing to support the general election. Of course, based on the stats from the primary, the advanced mail ballot is where a lot of focus needs to be right now for the election office. Advanced mail ballots will start being sent on October 14th. Applications will be accepted through October 27th. We are encouraging voters not to wait until the 27th. We will mail their ballot, but we cannot guarantee that they will get it in time. There are 4 options to return a mail ballot. Of course, it can be mailed. It can be hand-delivered to the election office at 510 North Main. It can be brought to any of the ballot drop boxes that we are currently installing that we'll talk about next. And then it can also be taken to a polling location. And for the general election, we will have dedicated boxes with signs so voters can just go in and drop off their mail ballot. They don't have to go hand it to a poll worker. So the poll workers can concentrate on people there to vote in person, and those that are choosing to vote by mail don't need to interact with anybody. As of yesterday, the election office has already processed 68,654 applications for advanced mail, with another 20,000 we are estimating waiting to be processed. So they're working really hard, but we're getting through them, and we should have no problem meeting that demand. For the mail ballot drop boxes, there are 14 boxes currently being installed throughout the county. The drop boxes are going to be opened on October 14th when the mail ballots first go out, and they'll be closed on November 3rd at 7 p.m., the same time as the polling locations. We did have the ballot boxes assessed by a locksmith, and they confirmed their integrity. The boxes will be checked daily while they are open, but due to security, we can't give any more specifics than that. We are adhering to guidance from the Department of Homeland Security and the Kansas Secretary of State's office for their placement and use. What is collected on November 3rd will not be counted that day. They will go up in subsequent days. However, as mail ballots are received through the variety of options that they can be, we will count them that day. There will not be a large backlog of mail ballots to be handled on Election Day. So these are the drop box locations identified by the election office. We focused on the second-class cities and then also incorporated Mays and Clearwater to have a good geographical spread. We also partnered with the City of Wichita Parks and Recreation Department to place some boxes at recreation centers, and then we do have a box at the Health Department. Most of the ballot boxes are not drive-ups. It was not the intention of the election office to install them as such. The focus was installing them in front of public facilities that had a good geographical spread to provide equal access to voters and ensuring that all of the ballot boxes were ADA accessible. So this really limited some of the options for locations, and only Mays and Bel Air will be drive-ups at this time. We do have a map for you all that Kate can provide. So you can see the spread.
Thank you, Kate.
So as you can see, we got them pretty well distributed around the county in very easily accessible areas. We will have an interactive map on the website, so people can go on with a Google map, click on the location they want to go to, and it'll automatically give them directions. We will also have pictures of all of the ballot boxes at each location, just to better assist voters and make sure that they know exactly where they need to go. We don't want them hunting for the box. Early voting. We really want to encourage voters to vote early if they choose to vote at the polling locations for the general election. Early voting will start in the Sedgwick County Election Office on October 19th and go through November 2nd. And then the 16 early voting locations, the same sites as the primary, will run October 27th through the 31st. New for the general election is we are establishing a mega voting center at Interest Bank Arena. This will run October 19th through the 31st. We will set it up in the south lobby. The public can enter through entrance A, and then parking lots 1 and 3 will be open and free for the public. We will have up to 50 voting stations, a mix of paper and machines. I know there have been a lot of questions about other potential mega sites. And we did assess other venues in town. Election Commissioner Lehman made it very clear from the beginning that it was going to be a trade-off. We were either going to do 5 to 6 mega sites distributed around the election districts within the county, or we were just going to have one centralized one and the 16 early voting sites. It was realized very early on, for a variety of reasons, that we could not secure those sites in a good geographic spread that were easily accessible to voters, and that had the appropriate security for us to do that and leave that equipment out for that full voting period. So we had to make the decision that due to the limited amount of time and what resources we had, that we were going to stick with the 16 and just have the arena. Okay. On Election Day, we will have 83 polling locations again, the same one as voters had in the primary. This time we will look to have 900 poll workers. We did increase the pay for poll workers for the general election. Poll workers will go from $7.50 an hour to $9.50 an hour, and supervising judges from $10 an hour to $12 an hour. We are asking people to go out in the public during COVID-19, and so it can be difficult to recruit and to avoid cancellations. So we're hoping that this increase in pay will help with that, because we need to make sure we have appropriate workers to get people through the polling locations quickly. We will allow for shifts again as the primary, and the supervising judges will work the full day. To help with that recruitment, another new thing the election office is doing is having a recruitment event. On Saturday, October 3rd, here in the main courthouse in the jury room, we will have 2 rounds. We will accommodate social distancing and restrict capacity to make sure that we adhere to the mask order and keep the public safe. But this will assist the election office with recruiting these poll workers quickly. Any interested citizens can come in, learn about what it takes to be a poll worker, and all in the same event. They can apply, fill out their HR paperwork, complete their background, receive their first onboarding. So all they have to do is come back for 1 equipment training, and they will walk out the door with their polling location. I also want to take the opportunity to remind everyone about VoterView. That is the Kansas Secretary of State's website, where voters can go and look at their voter registration application. They can see if their advanced mail ballot application has been processed. If they are voting by mail, they can see when the ballot has been sent to their house and also when it has been received by the election office. You can see a sample ballot for your precinct, and you can also look up your polling location on election day. It's very easy to use, very user-friendly. And then finally, just some important dates to remember. On October 13th, that's the last day for voters to register for the election. October 14th, mail ballots will be sent. On October 19th, early voting begins at Intrust Bank Arena and the election office. On October 27th, that's the last day that voters can request a mail ballot, and the early voting sites open. On October 31st, it's the last day to vote at early voting sites, including the arena. And November 2nd, it's the last day to vote at the election office. It does close at noon, so voters only have from 8 to noon on that Monday, November 2nd, and then November 3rd is election day.
Okay, thank you. Very comprehensive. I think my credit to Tabitha and you all on the successful primary. There was a lot of challenge, but I voted on that day and at a polling place, and it was clean, distancing, everything was fine, and very orderly, and it was kind of crowded, so it was good. So, any other comments, questions? Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. So, unlike previous years, you can confirm or explain it, I guess. Someone filled out an application for mail ballot in the primary. Is that cover the general as well, or do they have to fill out another application?
They have to fill out another application.
Okay, that's what I thought it was supposed to be, but I had people tell me otherwise, so I wasn't sure. How many hours is the training once again?
At the recruitment event, it's 3 hours, and then the second equipment training is another 3 hours.
And is that are those paid hours?
Yes.
They are paid. Okay, good. Again, I had one other question here. Do we know what the wait time was to vote during the primary? I know we track that closely. We want to make sure we have enough equipment deployed. We get a lot of criticism from other counties saying we only have 83 poll sites, and some other counties we might have our population or close to that would have 200 poll sites. I think what matters to me is how much time people have to wait. I think we have more equipment deployed to each poll site, so I think we have a different way of doing this, but I'm curious, do we track the wait times? Do we know how we compare to other counties?
Sandy?
We did not do like a wait time tracking per se like we did in 18.
Can you come to the podium? Sorry.
While you're going up there, I waited about 2 minutes at my deal, and it was 7:30 in the morning, kind of prime time. It was crowded and it was orderly.
We did not do a wait time tracking mechanism like we did in 18, where we had board workers like counting the number of people in line and how long it took them, just because we had the added tasks for social distancing and cleaning requirements and things. We felt that it would have been overwhelming for the board workers to do both, and we were focused on, of course, providing a healthy voting experience for the voters of Sedgwick County this year. But I can pull some data from our electronic poll books and be able to provide those to you.
It is one of those things, I know it's one of those things we get criticized by other counties that we don't do. In fact, that came up during legislative discussion on Senate Bill 130 this last year. And I guess I'd like to just make sure we capture that data, because it is very important to understand it. I think we just have a different way of doing it. It doesn't mean that our way is better or worse. They have more poll sites with less equipment at each poll site, the way I see it. And I think their wait times are maybe very similar to what we would have here. Also, I think the ballot is a little bit shorter going into the general. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Can you speak to that?
The ballot is actually longer for
Longer,
the general.
okay.
We added some judge retention questions.
Okay.
And then there's also a special question in one city as well. So, but it is actually just a little bit longer.
So with the Interest Bank Arena, regardless of where someone's assigned to vote, are they going to be allowed to go to Interest Bank Arena at like and they could vote on their normal ballot on a machine or normal process?
Exactly, just like
no
all
matter
of
where
our
they
early
are.
vote centers.
Does Senate Bill 130 make that possible?
No, that actually was possible prior to that time. Early voting has always been allowed to vote all Sedgwick County voters at any early voting site.
Okay, so the Interest Bank Arena will not be open on election day?
It will not be open election day.
All right, thanks for my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Don't see other questions? Okay, thank you again. Next item, Tom? Good luck for a successful election.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Kaufman, Deputy County Manager. Lots of testing activity going on. Last week, the Health Department collected 929 samples, including 197 samples through the saliva collection method. So we did our initial pilots with saliva last week in kind of a controlled environment, and we're expanding that pilot on saliva collection this week to include tomorrow afternoon at the drive-through sampling site. One of the things that's different about the saliva sampling than it is with the NP sampling is that we're registering that sample through our lab's website, and so that takes a little bit of additional time. And so tomorrow afternoon will be the first time that we do that kind of in the wild, where we've got people driving through, and we're going to be registering them as part of their collection process. It takes a little bit longer to manage those saliva samples because of the registration piece, but we're going to work through that tomorrow afternoon and make sure that we've got it down and as efficient as possible. And then next week we'll begin using the saliva sample as the primary sample collection method at the drive-through sampling site. Because we recognize that it's going to take a little bit longer to process folks, we're also in the process of extending our hours. And so this week we will be on this regular schedule where we'll collect samples mornings and afternoons on Monday through Friday. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, we'll also extend into the evening. And so we'll have 2 late collection nights, plus we'll do afternoon collections each day. So we believe that extended time, those extended hours, will allow us to collect as many or more as we have in the past. So that's very exciting. And I think the other thing that's important to know is that we are looking at a Saturday collection site based on demand, and if we can fill up a full day or a Saturday collection, we'll look at additional collections. We're continuing to do mobile collections throughout the community. We've got just about every week, we've got at least 2 scheduled, and that information is available on the website, and it's posted now. We've got, I think, probably the next 8 or 9 mobile sites are posted on the website. And lastly, I would just mention that we continue to meet with Wichita State. We met with them last week. We're continuing to meet with them to work through the financial components of that arrangement that we have with them. And then we need to work through the logistics in terms of the collection tubes, receiving them, distributing them, getting folks registered into WSU's system, which is going to be a little bit different than what we're seeing with CLR, I'm sure, and then going through the delivery and documentation process as well. So we continue to meet with WSU so that we can transition to them as being our primary lab, hopefully early in October. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, that's good, yeah. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you. Thank you for the update, Tim. So what do we think the capacity can be with CLR and doing the saliva test, extending the hours? I mean, you're doing everything right to capture a lot more tests. So do we think we're going to be at that 2,200 a week?
Our goal is to get, that goal is 2,200 a day.
Sorry, a day.
And we believe that we can probably get to 12 to 1,500 a day ideally, because there's going to be that 2,200 a day includes all the other collection sites in the community, whether it's the FQHCs
Local doctor's
or
office,
local
a hospital.
doctor. Exactly.
Sure. So that, you saying you're going to hit a goal of 12 to 1,500 a day potentially.
Potentially,
I'm not going
yeah.
to hold you to that necessarily, but my question would be that is with everyone together. That is not just the Sedgwick County, or that is, and then there would be additional from those other FQHCs or hospitals.
Yeah, we're going to collect somewhere between 500 and 1,000 to
We are.
1,200.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the rest of the community will continue to collect, and we believe they'll be able to increase collection, especially with WSU lab availability.
That still is a substantial increase for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, Commissioner Howe? Or Commissioner Dennis?
Just one question. The results portal that people can log into and see the results, is that up and running as well?
It is, yes.
So a little bit more time on the front end to get that saliva test collected and filled out correctly, but maybe some savings on the back end when the results come back?
Correct, yeah. We're talking about minutes in terms of adding time on the front end with CRL, but we've picked up about a day in terms of the results being available for folks, so.
I think that we talked about this briefly at one of our recent meetings, but I don't think we got an actual answer yet. I'm not expecting to get an answer today necessarily, but I've read some information about the amplification of the PCR test to be able to detect the COVID-19 virus. And there's some argument about how much amplification is being used to detect that virus. And I think there's best practices. Again, I'm just going to throw some numbers out there. I've heard somewhere between 25 and 30, but I understand that PCR tests we're using for COVID-19 is somewhere between 40 and 50. And I'm not sure that that's true, but I'd like to have that validated and understand exactly what are we doing with the amplification. Are we following a kind of the best practices? Are we kind of following what I'm hearing, I guess, that, and I guess, and the challenge of that is if someone, I understand correctly, if someone has had COVID-19, but they are, say, past the 14-day period, and they say they've generally recovered, they still might have fragments of that virus in their system that may be detected by this test if it's amplified too much. And so, I don't even, again, I'm not sure that's even true. I'm just talking about the things I've read or heard about. So, I don't know if we can validate that and find out kind of how this relates to Sedgwick County. That would be really great information.
We'll ask some questions. From my perspective, that may differ depending on the lab and the equipment that they use and the techniques that they use, but we'll follow up with the labs that we're using and try and get an answer for you.
That would be great. Thank you. Thank you for the report.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One brief question. I appreciate the fact that you've opened up on Saturday. I think that provides an avenue for folks that don't have an opportunity to get off during the week. But my question still revolves around teachers. Have we set up anything to help get the teachers tested?
Well, we've extended those hours on a couple of evenings, and we hope to see. We didn't see much teacher volume last week, and we think that it may be may have been because for 259 teachers, that was their first week back in the classroom, and maybe they were focused on that rather than getting tested. We hope that we'll be able to capture teachers from that 4 to 7 time period, and then also on Saturdays. And then as we refine our techniques with the registration process and that sort of thing, we'll look at other opportunities for teachers as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see anything else, Tim. Thank you. Thanks for the progress you're making. It's been a journey. All right, Tom.
Chairman, at this point, I might have Tanya take the podium just to kind of tell us again how the public comment's going to go tomorrow and kind of how policy sets today. And if the commission wills something different, we would incorporate that for future meetings. So I just kind of want to have Tanya give us the lay of the land on if I'm a citizen and I want to talk to this commission, how do I do that today, and how will I do it in the future? So.
Okay, Commissioners, so as it stands right now, if you're a citizen wanting to provide comments to Commissioners, there are 3 ways that a citizen can do that. They can go online on our website, and there is a public form that they can fill out on the website, and that gets submitted to communications, and we provide that to Commissioners the night before the commission meeting, and we provide that in a form to you all. They can also provide a comment to communications at sedgwick.gov, and we collect that and also provide that to commissioners the day before commission meeting. And both of those sources, you have that at your disposal. Sometimes you read that into the record, but that is given to you prior to the commission meeting, so you have that. Those comments are given to you prior to the meeting, and you also discuss that at during the public comment section of the commission meeting. If a citizen wants to address the commission in person, they will have to contact the county manager's office the Tuesday before 5 to sign up to do so. And we had been asking citizens to do that prior to, as I said, at 5 o'clock. And we were having them come in Wednesday. They would, of course, have to come in at that Wednesday meeting, and we would have them come into the podium and address the commission. And I think it's the chairman's discretion on the time that they're given. I think it's 3 to 5 minutes. And that was, I believe, voted on last week, that would be the policy moving forward. Recently, just after this last Wednesday's meeting, we now have, I think at last count, just this morning, we have 19 folks signed up to speak. And because of our facility being an operating facility, we don't have the space to really bring in 19 folks and properly distance them to be able to come into this room. And so we have relocated them to the Extension Center for tomorrow's meeting. So I think the process for tomorrow is public comment will happen no sooner than 10:30 on the agenda tomorrow. And we will do the public comment via Zoom. And so you will see them on this screen tomorrow. And we will run the process. It will go by order of how they signed up. And we will stage them in the 4-H hall. And they will be speaking in a conference room in the Meadowlark room. I've put them in the Meadowlark room so that there could be better sound for them to be able to speak to you. But I will just move them from the 4-H hall into the Meadowlark room, and they'll be addressing you from a laptop, and you will be able to interact with them. And we'll, Chairman, you'll, go through the list, and that's how we plan to do tomorrow. We have on our website that process that's on, and that will also be on our social media. We've put that message out there as well on website and social media. That message is only out there for tomorrow's meeting. I don't know if that is the plan moving forward. If we have that many speakers moving forward, I think that's to the commission discretion if you want to continue to have the Zoom meeting out at Extension, or if there's less speakers, if we bring them back into the commission meeting room.
Okay.
And one correction, Linda just sent me a text. We have 24 signed up for
Okay.
tomorrow. So.
In those 24 so far, so you'll have, somebody there at the extension office will have them in an order, so.
Correct. I will be out there moving them from the 4-H hall to the Meadowlark room.
Okay, and just for the commission, I thought since we're moving it to the end so we can get a lot of the business, since we've got this CARES money, we've got important stuff, that's why I moved it to the end, and then we kind of guessed would the meeting tomorrow be about an hour and a half long, so we kind of took a theory of no earlier than, so the people can plan to say, well, and if we're done before that, then we'll just recess for that 10 or 15 minutes. If we go over, then we're still covered because we said no earlier than 10:30. Now that's tomorrow. I don't know how, if we only had 3 people sign up next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, I don't, my preference is just during this pandemic, we keep it this way because, again, we got the judges' concerns and the lobby concerns, and I don't know if we want to make a decision at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays that, hey, we've only got 4, so let's come in here, and then we got to contact them to come here instead of extension office. So my personal feeling is that if we agree as a commission, that we just stay with the post meeting public agenda and have it at the extension, even if it's 1 or 2 people, or it'll be more than 25 tomorrow. Anyway, that's kind of where we got to this point. Commissioner Cruz, you want?
Thank you, Chairman. So if you could just address a couple things. So the first thing is, how have these folks who have signed up been communicated as to when it will start, how long they will speak, and can you tell me how they've been, have we called them? Do they know where to go? So there's no confusion about what's happening tomorrow.
Sure. Commissioner, we had, I think, approximately 12 people signed up, and then the decision was made to move the public comment to the Extension Center. And so for those people that were signed up, we called and made contact for each of those people and specifically told them that the public comment section would be moved at 10:30.
Okay.
We gave them the address that it would be at Extension Center and let them know where they were at in the order, so they were well aware.
So they were
of,
told over the phone.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we have more people come tomorrow to speak that have not signed up, how is that going to be handled?
So as of right now, my understanding that the policy is, and that was decided on last week, is that we are taking speakers up to Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So if the commission decides that they want to take speakers up to a certain point, if that's Wednesday at 9 or as they come in, then we will adjust according to how the commission wants to handle that.
Okay, so the process has been set that people who want to sign up have to sign up by 5 o'clock today to speak tomorrow. Those who show up tomorrow that have not been signed up will have to then sign up for the next week.
That's correct. And
That's
the
the
message.
policy.
Yes,
as
and that's
of
the
right now.
message we will tell them.
Okay, so it's not that we're trying to silence anyone, it's just that we have this policy and we've asked everyone to follow it.
You're correct.
Okay.
Okay. And Mike, Papoon, can you help this? I think, I don't have the previous policy that was discussed and adopted in 2016 or something like that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon, County Councilor, and I'm prepared to answer any questions regarding that, but there was a policy adopted in 2016 that was an agenda procedures policy and addresses public agenda item requests by the public.
And in that policy, it allowed the commission to do public comment before or after
Yes, sir.
the general meeting. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions and comments. So just tomorrow during our meeting, I understand we have a property issue on the agenda tomorrow. And we're going to conduct a hearing for that and let interested parties speak to the commission for that property issue on the agenda? Are they going to have to do that from the extension office, or they can do that from here?
No, we have already have talked to the property, or the applicant wants to address the public. And I guess if somebody was out there at the extension, but if you have like protests or something like that, that's on the that's on the new business part of the agenda, not the
So
public.
again, so my
the
my question is, so we have an item on the agenda called public comment. We also have other items on the agenda under new business.
Right.
One of which is a property issue.
Right.
Typically, those folks will appear before the commission. We like to conduct a hearing and give them due diligence.
Right.
Due process opportunity to make their case, if you will. The proponents and opponents of that issue. And they need a chance to come before the commission. How will we accommodate them specifically?
Well, if there's just a few of them, just like in the past, they can be in the boardroom.
So they can be up here and they can come into
Right.
this room and address us.
Right.
That's okay. Make sure we're clear with that. Okay. If there's any other new business that is interesting to the community and they want to come and speak before any item of new business, they would also be invited to come up here and address the commission personally, face to face, in this room. That's our plan.
I think so, unless it's the will of the commission otherwise.
Okay.
The intent is we can't, and another intent, respectful of the judges, as Commissioner O'Donnell spoke very well last week about it, is you got weather and everything else. If we hold, and if somebody doesn't want to wear a mask and they got to go to down the lobby, we can't congest that's the intent. We can't congest everything to accommodate. If we have an item in the future agenda that's a big number item, then we probably can make a decision at that time ahead of time to advise that on that item, please go to the extension office.
Okay, so I understand needing to make some temporary mitigations because of COVID-19 and we're in a pandemic, and I think that to have some temporary arrangements in our policy, changes in our policy for a little while, I think is something that we're discussing right now, and that's fine. But I'd like to just be clear, in the future, once we're past this hurdle, is it our intention to go back to the way things were? Since 2016 until now, we've allowed people to come up to our meeting without advance notice, come to our meeting, and at 9 o'clock, they could sign up, they could speak to the commission on any topic that was interesting to the community. And we've had as many, as 20 or 30 people come to those meetings and speak to us. It's never been a problem. And typically, I would like to say that, generally speaking, we do advertise, at least on the website. At least we did. I have not looked at it today, but we have said, generally we tell people that they have 5 minutes to speak, but the chairman can reduce that time if there's a lot of speakers. And I think that would be the reason why. And we have to be able to communicate to them, today's meeting, we're going to reduce it down to something less than 5 minutes because there's a lot of speakers. But typically speaking, I would like to provide that 5 minutes for most speakers most of the time. I think that is what's needed. It's hard to make a case in less than 5 minutes usually. And then I agree with Commissioner Cruz. We need to make sure we clearly communicate each one of these speakers. If we emailed them or called them, let them know the details of tomorrow's meeting, so we know for sure they know where to go and for sure what time to show up.
Commissioner, the folks that called in, that signed up, we gave them the information on where to meet. Those that have called in since, they now know where to meet. So those that signed up and we hadn't made that decision, we called them to let them know it'll be at Extension Center no sooner than 10:30. Those, after we made the decision, now know the information of it's at Extension Center no sooner than 10:30. So everybody should know that distinct information. We've also put the message out on social media, and it's out on our website, in both addressing the BOCC website and on our front website.
I'll say also that the 5 o'clock Tuesday deadline was, I believe it was intentioned to find out about how many people we would expect to be coming up here to the BOCC chambers. I think there was a purpose for the 5 o'clock deadline. I don't know that I agree. I don't agree that we should have a 5 o'clock deadline if we have people showing up virtually over at the extension office. The 5 o'clock deadline doesn't seem to be purposeful. I would say, I understand there ought to be a time that's saying you'd have to sign up by this particular time. Typically, that was 9 o'clock on Wednesdays before our meetings. If you came in and signed up at 9:30 and public speaking was still happening, we would not just simply continue to push that deadline or add more and more people to the agenda during those public comment opportunities. The city, I believe, last week, it appeared to me, I don't know exactly how they did this. They said, how many speakers do we have left? And they stated a number. But then they had way more people come and speak for the city at that time. So I got the idea that this was open-ended and people continuing to sign up throughout the day. That's a city policy. They can do whatever they want across the street. I think over here, I don't have a problem with saying there's time certain, you have to sign up by a time certain. I just don't know that it should be 5 o'clock on Tuesday evening. I would rather say it'd be 10:30 on Wednesday, because that's when that portion of the meeting begins. We should say at 10:30 on Wednesday, you're in line now to speak. These are the folks we're going to recognize today. And I would rather see that pushed off to Wednesday at 10:30 in this case, rather than Tuesday at 5 p.m. That's just my preference. I don't see a reason to move that date, or should say that time back to the day before. To me, it doesn't seem to be purposeful. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Papoon, did we not have a motion and a vote of 4-1 to keep it at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, last Wednesday? I believe.
That's what I believe.
Right. So we can make a motion tomorrow to rechange that. I am for reviewing the whole policy anyway a little bit, because I think the way I read the policy, the chairman has a lot of authority, the chairperson, and I, just like I did Wednesday, I made a motion I would rather it be the will of the commission versus the chair just making the decisions arbitrarily. But we can review that policy another time. Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'll be happy to revisit the policy and discuss the policy with all the commissioners to get the input. The policy itself allows speakers to come in on the Wednesday of the meeting and sign up before the meeting, but that was in non-COVID times, and that was our normal process, as Commissioner Howell was mentioning. But with COVID and all the other changes that we've made because of it, and processes that we've changed, we certainly can allow the managers change some of the policies, the chairman can change the policies, the commission itself can change its policies to adapt to this circumstance. And I think the 5 o'clock before was pretty much recommended by the Board of County Commissioners at this point. But outside of those times in our regular policy, it would be 9 o'clock day of the commission meeting, according to the policy.
Right. And obviously 26 people so far have signed up. And I think others had signed up and said, no, I'll pass, but later on. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for working this out. Yeah, yes, to Commissioner Howell's question, I think after this COVID mess is over, we will want to bring it back to the way it was before. The two caveats are, if we have dozens of people, we can't bring dozens of people up into our boardroom because it's way too small, and we can't have dozens of people standing in the lobby. That's a big issue for Chief Judge Gearing, and I went and met with him last Thursday and talked to him briefly about everything. So he appreciates us trying to accommodate his directives that came from the state Supreme Court. So that's extremely important. And then also on issues like the zoning that we brought up tomorrow that has to do with like zoning for the oil, those are somewhat, they have the judicial type settings. So I do think if those individuals, and like Commissioner Howell or Commissioner Meitzner said, those the parties have said they wanted to come up and speak on something that has legally binding issues. So I do think we need to accommodate. But in order for us to get these individuals wanting to talk about the mask, I think this is the only way we can make it happen. And that's the only way the city council was able to make it happen, was via video. And their chambers are not 10 times bigger than this, but probably 8 times bigger than what we're dealing with here. So I just appreciate staff trying to accommodate so that we can hear more people, because I don't think it's anybody's intention to silence anybody. I think we want to hear. We just need to acknowledge that we're in the courthouse and not in a city hall building. So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? No. Okay, Tanya. Thank you. So, all right.
And the last item, Commissioner Howell and I traded some emails yesterday, and I'll just speak from what I'm experiencing at my desk, and then I think Commissioner Howell would maybe like to talk. But since March, I've probably received several dozen phone calls from people who complain about not being able to see their loved ones at long-term care facilities and not having access. And our stock answer has been, it's a private business, it's a state-managed system, and the county doesn't have a legal role in that. So that's kind of the answer we've been giving, and I think the longer that this continues to extend and drag, I think it's the stress level with families who have people in long-term care facilities it continues to rise. So, and Commissioner Howell, I'll turn it over to you at this point on what some of your comments were and your suggestions. So,
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Manager. I forwarded a very compelling op-ed to the manager to start the conversation going. Just to reference that briefly, there was a World War II veteran, 97 years old, who needs his family member to accompany him at the hospital to fill out forms and make decisions for his health. The hospital has a very strict policy, and I don't know that it's been solved yet, but this particular person, who is the durable power of attorney for medical decisions, and I think other things as well, they did their very best to explain to the hospital that they really needed to accompany their loved one into the hospital, who I believe is possibly still there, but they were denied. And the hospital then is really unable to talk to someone within their facility to help make decisions regarding the care of that person. This is a very stressful situation for that family member. I have heard from others. I had a family in my district that talked about, they came back from, they were in the military, they came here to visit a loved one who was dying in the hospital, and because they had to quarantine the 14 days, they were not able to be with their loved one when they passed. And we hear stories like this all the time. We have, my mother spent 3 years in the nursing home. In fact, she died 3 years ago. I'm sorry, she died a year ago today. Today's her death anniversary. So I'm thinking about this, and I know her time in the nursing home for the 3 years we were there was so difficult. And I'm putting myself in the mindset of what are these family members dealing with right now, not able to visit their loved one in any way, and to verify the care that their loved ones are receiving inside these facilities. It makes me wonder, what it is that's causing these policies to be so uniformly and strictly applied. I got an email this morning from someone who observed just yesterday an elderly lady who was trying to get hearing aids, but she was denied access to get those hearing aids because she was not able to wear a mask for medical reasons. And hearing aids, if I understand correctly, are typically fitted and adjusted for the wearer. And so she really needed to have that personal time in the office, but because she was not able to wear a mask, she is not able to actually receive her hearing aids. So we're focusing on the quantity of life, but not the quality of life. And I am very concerned that this has gotten out of balance. There are health exceptions in the order that Dr. Minns issued, but a lot of our businesses, private businesses, hospitals, and nursing homes, they're making no exceptions whatsoever for what I would say is kind of a common sense issue. And I know these are not necessarily policies that we have control over, and so we're not the change agent. We're not the ones that can change the policy to force a change, to force something different than what's going on. But I do think we ought to speak to it. I would say, of course, COVID-19 is a very serious virus. It's very dangerous. We need to mitigate the risks. We need to respect it, and we ought to do things that make sense. But at the same time, we need to keep things in balance. And there are people out there that have legitimate reasons they cannot wear masks. And this lady, by the way, in the hearing aid store, she was by herself. She wasn't sitting near anybody else. And I think she should have been accommodated. The lady that talked about her father, who's the World War II veteran, she said she's willing to put on any PPE. She'll isolate. She'll take tests. She'll be tested. She will wear the same outfit or the same PPE that the nursing staff is wearing. She's willing to do whatever it takes, but she needs to be with her father. I believe we've lost our common sense here, And I don't know what it's going to take to change things, but I think at least a proclamation to state, if you will, like Sedgwick County position, that we are advocating for patients. We're advocating for family members. We ought to mitigate COVID-19, but do it in a very thoughtful way that it has a reasonableness built back into it. And right now we've gotten so out of balance that there are people out there that are truly suffering, even dying, and they're dying alone. Because there's no exceptions, and we're treating this with such strictness. There's not accommodations made that are reasonable to get these family members back together. And so I've asked manager to prepare, if you will, a proclamation to state a position of Sedgwick County that would say that we understand patients have rights, and family members need to be able to access their loved ones when they're receiving care. My mother was not able to be a watchdog for her own care. I promise you, our family members were there nearly every day for 3 years. And we made sure she was eating. There was times that she wasn't eating, and the staff didn't have time. I love that staff. They did the very best they could, but they just don't have time to spoon feed my mother, which is what she needed sometimes. And so the reality is, I love my mom, and I'm motivated with that love to really care for her, for the medical care that she's receiving. And I was able to be a watchdog and make sure that things were taken care of, making sure that she's getting her showers and her food and her nutrition, her sheets are being changed, and all it goes. I know these folks do the very best they can. I'm not trying to say they're not doing the best they can. They are doing the best they can. But we've got a conflict between our health orders and I say a kind of common sense approach to taking care of people really where they are. There are some really great needs out there that are being hurt, or I should say not being considered, and the harms that comes from that is huge. Sedgwick County needs to speak up and advocate for people who are hurting. And right now our policies are so strict, although we've got exceptions built into them, it doesn't go far enough. We need to do more to educate our business owners and educate our caregivers that there are reasonable exceptions. If you have to add more PPE, we've got CARES money. I think we can make that happen. But somehow we've got to solve this. And right now I'm not happy that things are so conflicted and so strict that people truly are hurting and even dying sometimes without their family members at their side. This is inexcusable. We have to do something to make a statement, if nothing else. I would like to appeal to the hospitals and to our long-term care facilities to adjust their policies to allow for family members to have a way to visit their loved ones. It is imperative that this happens. So I think we need to have a proclamation. I don't know what else we can do, but I've asked our staff to help me with that, and I'd like to have that brought up before the commission for a vote, hopefully tomorrow. Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. So I agree that there are substantial problems with long-term care facilities, people being able to see their loved ones. I've been working closely with Janie Carney, who has been an outspoken advocate with the Alzheimer's Foundation. In fact, she's on their board. I set up a meeting for her. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. She went and met with Attorney General Derek Schmidt. I called Derek Schmidt personally and said, would you please meet with Mrs. Carney to talk about this? The nursing homes have this, there's a lot of liability issues, and that's far exceeds us. That's more at a state level, and I know the Attorney General, and I'd encourage you to reach out to General Schmidt as well, Commissioner Howell, is working with the governor's office to figure out how, because they get sued all the time anyway, and this is just an added issue. And we've talked, I know Commissioner Meitzer and I have talked to nursing home management as well. I know Commissioner Cruz used to work with them. So I know that's the issue, which is a lot bigger. I'd be happy to sign any proclamation and continue to work with the Attorney General, but it is a critical issue. I think all five of us know that the emotional health toll in a lot of cases is worse than the physical health toll with the coronavirus. So I'd be happy to support a proclamation and continue to work with the Attorney General and the Governor's office to figure out how we can allow these nursing homes to start opening back up. The other thing with medical exemptions, yes, we do need to streamline that. I'd be open to Sedgwick County having a form that people could just go to our website and print out, so that if somebody does approach them at a grocery store or somewhere and say, hey, listen, I have a medical issue. I don't know if we'd have the ability to do that or if they'd have to get a doctor to sign off on it, but if there's something we can do so that people with true medical conditions could be exempted from the mask order, I'd be open to that. But I don't know if that's us or somebody's personal doctor, or if we just get a form that people can sign themselves, because I read that same story about the hearing aid, and I thought it was very tragic. The lady being turned away, and she needed her hearing aids. So we should not be doing that in Sedgwick County. So I'd be open to that discussion.
Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman. Coming from the senior living world, this really is near and dear to my heart. And I have to say that the senior living industry is, as Commissioner O'Donnell mentioned, very heavily regulated. And there are people who sue at the drop of the hat for the most minute things. And so I feel like that's why they have taken this overabundance of caution. I think that we have a duty as commissioners and as Sedgwick County to understand where those regulations lie. And we do, I feel like we have done a very good job, and I'm looking to our communications staff, of trying to communicate what wearing a mask is, why we should wear it, but there are a lot of people who don't understand it. And so how do we as commissioners, the ones who are responsible for these orders, how do we, as the five of us, take on the responsibility of communicating these things rather than fighting against each other, working with the community to understand that once we get past all of this, we can get back to normal or a new normal. So I would encourage us all to understand that working together instead of fighting each other in one way, shape, or form will help. I think, though, that getting back to senior living, they regulate themselves. They have to regulate. We can't step in and tell them what to do as far as how to run their business. Do we really want to get into that? I don't know that we do. So I think it's important that we understand who sets their regulations, whether it's CMS or whether it's the state, but it's not the commissioners. And I think that it's important that we communicate that to our community, that who regulates these? It's not the commission. So I do hope that people will be kind to those who choose not to wear a mask for whatever reason. I think it's gotten to the point where people are policing each other instead of just going about their business, doing what they need to do, and avoiding those people who don't wear masks for whatever reason. When I walk into a store and I see somebody who's not wearing a mask, I don't go up to them and tell them to wear a mask. I do what I need to do. I do the things that I'm there to do, and I go on about my business. I hope that people will start doing that. This is not an easy task to manage. And I personally don't like wearing these things. But if it will help me make sure that people are safe around me, then I will. And I just hope that people will be kind to each other. I'm kind of rambling here, and I apologize for that. But I think that we have to understand that people wear masks because they want to help others. And some people wear masks because they don't believe. But go on about your business and do the things that you need to do, and don't worry about someone at a store not wearing a mask, and don't chase them down. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about this. Everyone, let's just get along and try to get over this together and stop fighting each other.
Okay. And Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, it's probably been 2 months ago now that I brought this up when a lady contacted me and said that she couldn't get in to see her father-in-law in a nursing home. So it's been a concern for some time. We've discussed it a couple times. But my only concern about bringing a proclamation to us tomorrow without making sure that it's been fully staffed and we've looked at all of the ramifications behind that, it may be premature. We may need we haven't talked about it. We haven't had our attorneys come around with a 2, 2, and 1, any type of discussion to try. The concern I've got is we've been doing this too much lately, where we bring something up at the last minute and then we start trying to make sausage from the bench again, and that's what's going to happen here. So I'd have no objection to Commissioner Howell's suggestion that we take a look at some kind of proclamation or something. I do have an objection to try and put it on the agenda for tomorrow until it's been fully staffed and worked. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Nuss. If I can add also, our Monday hospital calls we just had yesterday, which is kind of surprising to me that Via Christi has already said, Ascension said that they're working on a policy that they're putting in place right away for a visitor or visitors to be available with their patients. So that was encouraging. And then I think Wesley had said as well that they were looking at a similar policy. The VA said the same. So I think as people get their hands around this, if I heard that, I know Commissioner Cruz and Tom was on the call. There's clearly an awareness of visitors, all the things that you referenced, Commissioner Howell, about helping the patients that are in the hospital, as well as the really ones that are in severe case. So that's encouraging. We could do a proclamation that we encourage them looking at everything that they can to try to allow a visitor. I think we'll all be supportive of that. I don't think we can mandate. My aunt's 93 and is in a care home, and I go by and visit her. And 2 weeks ago, the same care home said, no, we can only visit outside because we had a case or two. So they're managing themselves. I think the care home that my aunt is at is a really nice one, and none of them have said, "Hey, Pete, it's because of your mask order is why we have this problem." They're managing the virus and the health of their community, of their clients, and I'm sure they've got a lot of legal scenarios and what ifs they're working on. So I'm able to visit remotely, and when it's better, then if a patient's clear, we can visit outside together and then back in, and so it's a hard world there. So that's just my comments. Yeah, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. Just like to make some response to some of the comments I've heard. So first of all, I've never yet been allowed to listen in on the hospital call on Mondays. I think many of the commissioners have done that. I've never been able to listen in or ask a question. So my communication with the hospitals has been basically virtually zero. The proclamation is not a binding law. It doesn't change the county policy. To Commissioner Cruz's point, I understand we're not making policy for them. We're not telling them what to do. But a proclamation would be, if you will, an official statement of Sedgwick County. We're making, if you will, and we're advocating for a solution. We're telling them as community leaders, we believe this is important. And we want to see change. We're asking them to hear us. And because of our strong opinion, because of our official opinion, they would intentionally go back and review that and take a look at that with respect to what we're trying to tell them. Letting them know we have a concern. It doesn't mean we can tell them what to do. It doesn't mean that we have any control of their policy. It is clearly their policy. I'm not happy with status quo. I think for us to not speak is wrong. We need to stand up as leaders and speak. If we don't speak, then if they choose to have a solution in the future, I guess that's up to them. But I think we ought to encourage them to move forward with a change in how they handle this. I want them to understand from our perspective this is an urgent issue. Not to sit back and say we're happy with status quo. We're happy with them getting around to it whenever they get to it, if they ever do. And by the way, Dr. Minns has stated clearly. I'll say it again. Dr. Minns has continued to say that this COVID-19 is not going away. It's going to be around for a long time. And we talked about until a vaccination is readily available, and I know there's a lot of people who said they will not take a vaccination. So, if I guess how long we're going to see this continued pandemic world we live in, how long is this going to continue? I think it's going to be another year. And if that's true, what policies are we willing to have? What's our configuration of how we relate to each other and help each other? What are the situations in the community? Are we happy? Because this is not a temporary thing. It's not going to be for 2 weeks or even, we've been here doing this for 6.5 months now. I think we're talking another year. And so if what I'm saying is true, clearly what we've seen going on for 6.5 months is not a good policy. We've got to see some solution. And we as community leaders need to stand up and speak it, speak our position. If we're not ready for tomorrow, that's fine, but again, this is not law. We're not creating policy for Sedgwick County. We're simply issuing, if you will, an opinion or a statement, asking our caregivers to hear us and take a look at this, and hopefully they would make change. So I'm not happy to sit back and do nothing. I think we need to stand up and speak. And I think the sooner we speak, the better. If we can't do it tomorrow, that's fine, but I think we need to have this on the agenda as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I agree with Commissioner Dennis that we ought to take a look at it. I think tomorrow's pretty quick to do that, since we don't know exactly what the language would say. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you. I understand what you're trying to do with the proclamation, Commissioner Howell, but I mean, you can advocate today by sending an email or a letter to each individual nursing facility. Find the director and send them a letter today. I mean, you don't have to wait for a proclamation. And quite frankly, do these administrators of these nursing facilities even pay attention to the commission? I mean, are they? I mean, that's a realistic question that I feel like what you'd like to do would probably go over better if you wrote them a letter, if you called them up, if you said, "Hi, I'm Commissioner Howell. I'd like to discuss this with you." I mean, I just don't know that a proclamation is really going to get your mission accomplished. I do support advocating, absolutely. I would never want for someone to have no one there with them. But I just don't know that a proclamation is really going to get what you're trying to do accomplished.
With all due respect, you can vote no when it comes up, but I think it needs to come from Sedgwick County as an organization, not just from me personally. We operate, this organization is represented, if you will, by majority opinion. I don't get my way on a lot of issues, which is fine. I vote differently than my colleagues on a number of issues, that's fine. This is something that needs to come from Sedgwick County as a strong opinion of our governing body that we're asking them to change. I can do this individually, you're correct. I don't think it's as effective as it would be if it comes from us as a body. The majority opinion of Sedgwick County has spoken.
So I understand. I absolutely understand. But if you want to do something now, if you don't want to wait, I mean, it seems like the majority of the commissioners now would like to wait to do this so that we could have it vetted out. What I'm saying is get on the horn today. Don't wait until a proclamation. I'm not saying I'm going to vote against it. I'm just saying that if you want to advocate now, do it today and don't wait for a proclamation to be done by this commission. That's what I'm saying.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
Commissioner Howell, I do support a proclamation. But I do agree with waiting. How we normally do proclamations is communications through some department, either our front office or communications, send us the proclamation, then we can review it before and make any changes. So if you would work with communications, I'm sure we can get that on the agenda for next Wednesday. So if we're going to, because that's generally how we handle proclamations. I don't think we normally just do them the day before.
That's fine. I feel like this is urgent. I will do that.
I agree.
I will do that. And I will advocate individually, personally, and I'll do that immediately. But this is important. And I hear the opinion of my colleagues at the table today. You're not ready for tomorrow. I don't think this is all that hard, frankly. Yeah, we could get it done today, and you guys could review it tonight, and you guys could vote on it tomorrow. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We can push it off for a week.
If I can review it before, I'm okay with doing it tomorrow. I just haven't reviewed it.
Okay. Well, I think we've talked it through, and Tom, is there anything else?
No, I think we're good, sir. And just let
Okay.
me make sure I understand so the will seems to be proclamation for next week, or tomorrow, if we can get it to you today to review.
Okay.
I don't know if Mike wants to chime in on this either. Another option is for the commission. There's three ways the commission can communicate. One is resolution, one is proclamation, one is letter. And this commission many times has sent letters to people, governor, attorney general, others, on a particular statement. So those are all methodologies to effectively communicate. And I believe KDADS oversees long-term care facilities, whereas KDHE oversees hospitals. Is that correct, Tim? So there's a little bit of a difference of who administrates these, so
Tom,
we'll work something up.
once you start working, but I think what Commissioner O'Donnell's done, and he's asked Commissioner Howe to communicate also with the Attorney General, there is some work going on in KDADs and everything else. It's not as easy as just, to me right now, just putting a quick proclamation out, that unless we want to say it as simple as we support the medical community trying to have a visitor best they can, but I don't think we're ready to. I mean, it could be, I guess, that simple, but.
And Chairman, if I may, I feel like for what I mentioned earlier is how many people that are running these facilities will know about the proclamation. So if we have a proclamation, what is our follow-up plan to let everyone know about our support for this endeavor? I mean, I would like to have a follow-up and a letter sent to each of these facilities, to the administrator of these facilities, so that we ensure that they see this. Because I don't think us just having a proclamation and expecting people to see it on their own, I feel like we have to do a better job of communicating this to them.
Okay.
That's all I had, sir.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Okay, anything else? Mike, anybody else for the commission? Okay, if not, we will we will adjourn today, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thank you.